Time again, everybody, for a what if, and this is a what if that I can get behind. My name is Tom Lang, the director of original content for Warchant.com. I am joined by Ira Schafel, the managing editor of Warchant.com, and the one, the only Michael Langston, the recruiting extraordinaire expert at Warchant.com. We're going to hit all facets of what if Florida State upsets Notre Dame the first weekend of the season, which would be a massive, massive thing. But before we get into it, real quick, you know the drill. We want you to subscribe and hit the bell right here at Warchant.com's YouTube page. We're going to have you covered wall to wall, recruiting-wise, team coverage-wise, as fall camp begins this upcoming weekend. The 6th is when the media get together for a luncheon, and then practice starts in earnest. In fall camp, we get access to it, leading up to the kickoff, that's right, against Notre Dame. So, Ira, this was a question that was posited by Aslan Hajavandi of Warchant.com, but it's one that I really enjoyed. I'll start with you. If Florida State was to score a monumental upset Sunday of Labor Day weekend over Notre Dame, what would the ramifications of that type of win be?
Well, for starters, I would say I'm not sure if it's monumental. I mean, you're talking about 10 points. It would be an upset, but I don't think this is one of those where it's unreasonable to talk about the possibility of Florida State upsetting Notre Dame. They do replace their quarterback. They replace their offensive line. They replace some really key, outstanding players on defense. So I don't think it would be a monumental upset, but it would be a huge deal for Florida State. I mean, right off the bat, the fact that Florida State has not won a season opener since 2016, which is really hard to even believe. I mean, I remember for years and years and years, FSU would put out their notes after a game, and it was like how many years in a row they had won their season opener. And, this is it's been a really rough stretch these last 4 years where they have not been able to beat anybody since that game in Orlando against Ole Miss. And so that from that perspective right away, just being 1-0 would be a huge deal. But I also think it would be a huge deal because of what that first half of the season looks like. You're talking about games against, Jacksonville State and Wake Forest and Louisville at home. There's a chance you could be 4-0 or 5-0 to start the season, which would be just a huge, huge deal for a fan base that has needed something positive for a long time.
Well, I guess maybe that's where I'm coming from partly. I get your point, Ira, that it's only a 10-point spread. Notre Dame has lost an awful lot year over year, and since it's game one, you might be able to ambush an opponent that might be stronger by November. But just from my experience from the radio days, I mean, every September, does it have to be that, the life is completely sucked out of the season before you even get halfway through the month of September? This would be a trampoline effect and would have all sorts of positive momentum because it's the only game in town that weekend. The whole nation has to watch it. And Mike Norvell and staff would be able to capitalize on all sorts of momentum, not just on the schedule and the wins and loss counter, but also in the recruiting department. See, that's why Michael's here, because this is going to be a huge weekend for visits in Tallahassee. And Michael, if you could envision Florida State upsetting Notre Dame, what would that do for your job for the 24 to 48 hours coming out of Notre Dame weekend?
Well, it's going to be pure hell no matter what, but it would make it really crazy. Unlike Ira's answer for football, recruiting, it would definitely be monumental because this is what recruits have been waiting on, a competitive game. Now, when I talk to them, a lot of them are like, hey, I just want to see, the growth of where they're at. They want to see a competitive game. They want to see them play well. But if you win that game, we're talking about, top prospects like Jaleel Skinner. He's the top tight end in the country. FSU's recruiting him at a wide receiver, but you have 5-star Kevin Coleman. Nigel Kelly is going to be there, another 4-star. There's going to be probably, I would guess, over 100 recruits at this game, and you're probably hosting like between 10 to 12 official visitors that, some of them are solid commitments like A.J. Duffy, Travis Hunter, Sam McCall. Those guys will be there. But you also have uncommitted guys where they're going to see this product in front of their face. And even the committed guys, they can say, oh, well, I'm firm and everything, but they want to see what the growth is and what they're going to do. And if you win that game, Tallahassee would be unhinged. It would be unhinged of how the immediate impact, because then everything they're not telling kids like, hey, we're going to win 9, 10 games. They're saying kids, they're being honest about what they have. But if they win that game, that the momentum and the juice is going to be so much ramped up. It's going to be to another level that FSU hasn't experienced probably since Jimbo was here, maybe in 2011. And so I think it brings a massive amount of recruiting momentum for FSU, which, by the way, they already have a lot of recruiting momentum from this summer. I mean, they're ranked number 5 in the country as far as their class, but you win that game, it's hard for my head to be wrapped around all what impact it will have. I would just say it will be massive.
Yeah, and that's the thing. There's also a written piece, I should mention that, accompanying this video on warchant.com. And remember, this is just a morsel of what you can get coverage-wise from the folks right here at Warchant. There are the opinions of Gene Williams, Corey Clark, the aforementioned Aslan Hadjivanti, excuse me, Aslan, sorry about that, in the written piece that goes along with this. But one thing I said in the graph that I was allowed to write was, this is the proof of concept that Coach Norvell and staff are looking for. They've got tons of momentum in the offseason in recruiting, and year 0 wasn't really a chance to prove your wares all that much. I mean, Michael, we know this, 8 hours down to the south with the University of Miami. How many times did they gain a bunch of momentum in the spring and summer only to see football results completely undermine all of that momentum? This would be by itself, right, within one game, the proof of concept that Coach Norvell is looking for, right?
Yeah, because I mean, we've seen it, whether it be me or Ira seeing the football aspect of stuff where, you see there's a dramatic change in the culture where all guys are bought in. Well, with recruits, the relationships, we see a dramatic shift as far as the way kids view FSU as far as relationships, culture. They love everything about FSU, relationships. They talk about the things that FSU does that nobody else does, the innovative stuff like youth camps and stuff like that. That builds excitement with recruiting. But the big test and the ultimate test that's left is on the field. And that's really the final test for FSU. I think everything else they've knocked out of the park. And certainly, as you pointed out, decommitments happen. We've seen Miami get off to a hot start and decommitments everywhere. But I think the difference is the relationships that these guys have done. But to really fully get up to the plate with 3 guys on base and hit that grand slam, you have to, kids want to see, the product and the growth of the product, as Jalen Glover kind of pointed out to me, a 4-star running back. I think a lot of kids just want to see what's the difference between what they look like a year ago and what they have now, because everyone's jazzed up. I can't remember this much excitement over the first game of the year, or just see this team play. With the transfers, the recruits they added, there's a lot of excitement about what this is going to be. Hopefully, it's not the Willie Taggart season opener of Virginia Tech. Hopefully it's something where you're building to a climax of this is where they're going, and this is kind of an indication of what the season's going to be, of being competitive, whether you win a close game or lose a close game, but it's a competitive team and a growth team that really all these recruits and even future transfers and future recruits can get behind.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you, Tom. I just want to piggyback on what he was saying. And part of what would make this such a significant win isn't just the fact that it would break this losing streak of season openers, but also the atmosphere that's going to be there that night. And Michael just kind of alluded to it. Not only is it the first full capacity game, assuming everything goes as planned right now. It could be a sellout. It should be a sellout, full capacity. Sunday night, the only game on. I mean, the whole country is going to be watching Florida State, Notre Dame on prime time, and it is this chance. I think a lot of people are seeing it as kind of a new beginning. Mackenzie Milton might be a key player in this game, so you have that storyline. All the transfers. There's so many things that are going to make it a high profile game. The one question I'd have for you guys is, and not to take your role here, Tom, but do you guys feel it's risky though to put so much on the recruiting side? To have all these official visitors, to have all these. I mean, obviously you want to capitalize on a big game like this, but does it feel a little bit risky to if it doesn't go well, what they could lose here?
It is. There's risk involved. But I think their mindset, the way FSU's looked at it, is like we want you to see what we are and how much we've grown. Whether they lay an egg or not, they want to go out there. And your 2 biggest games at home this year are Miami and Notre Dame. So you either have to pick one or the other. I think they would like to see them in this kind of national scene. So if you play well, I mean, as long as you don't go out there and just get blown out, I think if you play well, that's going to have a dramatic and solid effect on kids. If you win, obviously it takes it to an extreme level. But I think it's smart that way because, you're showing what you are. Like this, you're not hiding from it. It's like you're not hiding from the 3-6 season. You're saying, we want to show you guys exactly what the growth of this program is. And I think they know the risk. I mean, I think it's a risk, obviously, when you go into a first game of the year. I think some people say, oh, we don't know what Notre Dame is. Well, I don't think we know what Florida State is, but I think it's kind of we want to show you what we are. And I think it's kind of how they've done the whole recruiting process, where there's kind of like kids go to other places. They're like, we want you to go see other places because we trust our product. And I think that's what they're saying is we trust the product that we're going to put on the field.
So, Ira, let's just say it does happen, and Michael put the vision of that Virginia Tech game from years ago in my head. I'd almost bought this thing like it had already happened. But let's just say that Florida State does get off to that 1-0 start. And I should quickly aside, that Monday, Labor Day Monday, we'll have a radio show, folks. It'll be on 93.3 locally in Tallahassee, but it'll be right here on Warchant TV, just as every Jeff Cameron show will be, starting Monday, August 9th. We are about a week away from the beginning of the Jeff Cameron show. Monday through Friday. They'll take a break on Tuesday for Ira Schoffel, Corey Clark, and Seminole Headlines. But every day, there's going to be a live show right here on Warchant TV. And you might even see Jeff Cameron start earning his paycheck and pop up here on Warchant in some variety between now and the end of this week as we're recording this on August the 1st. But Ira, the trajectory of the season, how fundamentally would it change, or would it change fundamentally if Florida State did score the upset over Notre Dame?
I mean, it definitely would. I mean, the thing is, the second half of the season is where things are going to get really hairy. I mean, you start talking about, going to Clemson, going to Florida, that home game against Miami, even the roadie to Boston College. I mean, there's going to be some real big challenges in the second half of that season. So that anything they can do in the first half, if they could steal a win against Notre Dame, start off 4-0 or 5-0 or 4-1, something like that, and just give yourself some real strong momentum going into the halfway point of the season. Maybe that confidence you gain from those wins kind of propels you in the second half. I don't think, and going back to the question I asked you guys, the one reason I don't think it's super risky is because I don't envision just a bad game where they get blown out. Because first of all, I think they'll be improved, but also because I don't think Notre Dame's going to come down there looking to score 50 points. I mean, that's not really what Notre Dame does anyway. And they're going to be breaking in a new quarterback on the road, season opener. You would think they're going to play it a little bit more conservative, try to run it, pound it down Florida State's throats. They're working with a new offensive line. They're not going to probably want to do too much with them. So I really think that it could be a ball control kind of game. It might be a lower scoring kind of game, especially if Notre Dame takes that approach. So as long as Florida State's run defense is improved, which you got to hope it is, especially after that game last year, then maybe it's, even if you don't win, it's a respectable game. And I think that would be a solid result. To Michael's point, it would show growth from a year ago. It would show that the program is moving forward. But yeah, man, if they got to win, it changes the complexion of the whole season. Now, I don't know, 8 or 9 wins is possible. Whereas going into the season, most people are thinking, maybe 7 would be a really good season.
Well, I can tell you, Ira, that I've circled the Wake Forest game in week 3 as one of the biggies on the schedule because I don't anticipate this what-if playing out. If it did, it almost earns you a strike later in the season. You could slip up and still accomplish what you're looking for to solidify the class. And Michael, one more question to you about the expectations that Mike Norvell and staff are setting. It seems like with the transfer market, the guys that came in here, Mackenzie Milton, Jermaine Johnson, and others, they didn't sell them this vision that they could win 10, 11 games in 2021. They told them it's going to be a rebuilding process. You're going to be the guys that get it started to change the tide. Do you think in the way they communicate to the blue chippers for this upcoming 2022 class, they've effectively said, hey guys, there's going to be some bumps in the road when you watch us in the falls this Saturday, but you're going to be the ones that change it? They're not overhyping what they're possibly capable of, are they?
No, they're not at all. And actually, they're lower hyping it. If you want to do anything, they're telling them like, look, this is what we are. I don't think they're telling them like a certain number exactly, but I think they're definitely not telling them like, hey, we expect to win 10 games. I think they're telling them as Norvell has always pointed out, he tells them what they're coming into, what recruits are getting into when you come to Florida State. They're being direct about, what they have, what they expect, and then it's up to them to get the most out of what they have. And we've seen that with Norvell. He does a great job of maximizing his roster and wherever he's been. And I think that's what they've kind of focused on of exactly what they have, even with the transfers that come in. You had really key needs. D'Amica obviously signed Marcus Cushney recently, a defensive end, and then picked up several other guys, loaded up on the defensive back group because you obviously need there, and then Jermaine Johnson, defensive end. I think they load up there. So I think they focus on places that they know there's such big holes that they have to fill, like Dylan Gibbons. Schrader probably could be out for extended time. You don't know if you even have that guy this year. So they knew they had to get Dylan Gibbons to get in there. They need guys that can plug in there that they know can make an impact and help them. And I think that's what they've sold on them, but also what they're building towards. It doesn't have to be all this year. It's about building towards a certain goal, what they want to reach. And I think that's kind of the message they've done with recruits, that they've been very direct and honest about what they're expecting to get out of going into the season.
Ira, I know you and I and the rest of the team side are really ready to go. We're champing at the bit, right? Because football practice does start this upcoming week. We get to see those practices, which is really awesome. But that means that it's time to pass Michael Langston in the parking lot at the Moore Center, slap high five, and say, way to go, because Michael has basically lived there and paid rent for the last couple of months. Michael, if you want to put a bow on the things that you saw this past week, and then obviously this video is going to be uploaded on Monday, August 2nd, there might be something to look forward to as well. If you don't mind putting a bow on all that recruiting coverage you've been doing for us, we'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been pretty relentless. I mean, from the month of June 1st, when which I've never done, by the way, showing up at FSU at midnight and covering an actual event and leaving at 3 a.m, talking to recruits at 3 a.m. That's not something that's a regular occurrence for me. But just the thing I noticed that was my takeaway is the amount of detail these guys are with everything. These kids are there's never a lull time. They're always doing something. They're always active. There isn't a break in between. I even had some parents tell me, it's like, there's no visit that I've seen that's like this. I mean, the way these guys are detailed, and then you really see the way they are with relationships. Every guy that gets there, I don't care if he's a 3-star guy that maybe they might have already offered they'd like. These guys are always out there greeting them in the parking lot right before they get in. So relationships isn't just talk; they really deliver. So that was kind of my main takeaway. Obviously, we'll have a lot more coming on. I have a 12 to watch coming up, a big feature. It's basically a mini hot board of kind of where things stand of the guys remaining, because we're talking about about 8 or 9 spots left for FSU to fill this class. So I'll go through detail, guys, of specifically everyone that's in there. Obviously, I'll touch on the offensive line position that everyone loves to talk about. And then there's be some key positions in there with maybe some new guys thrown in. And then I'll throw some additional guys that could move up the board for, that 12 to watch later on. And then a reminder for everybody, as I've pointed out, Monday, around Monday afternoon, I want to say about 1 o'clock, Jalen Early, offensive lineman from Texas, 4-star Rivals 250 guy, is making his announcement. Feel it's a good chance there's going to be some good news there for FSU. We'll see, but I feel pretty good about that. So could be more.
That would be their 6th offensive line commitment.
Yeah, that'll be the 6th offensive line commitment, wow. Which I don't ever remember FSU having 6 commitments this early, and even to the statue of the level of the guys that they're getting. So Jalen Early would be a massive pickup for FSU, and it kind of is the perfect crescendo to finish off the summer to get another, top Rivals 250 offensive lineman. I think it really jacks you into that season perfectly, I think, with that addition.
Who were the other finalists for him?
I think some of the schools there in there: Ohio State, Texas Tech, Penn State. Yeah, there's a bunch. I think there's like 7 or 8 schools, but I think those are some of the main ones. And I've already put in a forecast for FSU, so that's obviously where my mind's at. So we wait tomorrow, but you get that pickup Oh boy. I mean, that's that. Now you're talking about best offensive line classes ever when they're in the category of that if you get that guy.
Michael, that is a sound for sore ears for this fan base. There's no doubt about that. And again, he told you, set your watches, your alarms, your whatever you need at your desk for 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Monday, August the 2nd. Ira, now that we know what's coming up in the recruiting side of things, anything that you want to tease besides the article that goes part and parcel with this video that you're watching right now on Warchant TV? What do we expect leading up to camp?
Yeah, as you said, Friday we'll have the opening press conference, then practice starts on Saturday. But yeah, we've got some really good stuff. I mean, Aslan's working on a good feature on the strength and conditioning program, the work that Josh Storms and his staff did this summer. I had a one-on-one interview with Mike Norvell. We have a video from that with a story that'll be going up this week as well. And plenty more preseason coverage coming up leading up to this weekend. So stay tuned to warchant.com for sure.
And even to chime in on that, Tom, for those that haven't seen it, me and Ira put together a really good article on their support staff.
Right.
It's kind of a football combination recruiting. I think it's a must read for everybody. It really tells you how detailed, when I say details, how details Norvell is, even with support staff, the way these guys lay the foundation. It's a really good read. It kind of tells you why they're so successful already in recruiting. These guys are a big part of it.
Written coverage, message board coverage, Warchant TV coverage, podcasting, radio shows. We've got it all here at Warchant for you for the 2021 football season and camp leading right up to it. For Ira Schoffel, the managing editor of Warchant.com, Michael Langston, the senior recruiting analyst of Warchant.com, I'm Tom Lang, the director of original content, the DOC at Warchant. Make sure to hit the like, subscribe, and hit the bell, please, and we'll be talking to you soon on Warchant TV.